Hello and welcome to Paper Tuesdays. Today we're going to bless ourselves.
Yes, we are indeed.
So we're actually starting the podcast again because we have a story.
This is serious goings on.
A story that I was supposed to keep anonymous, but straight away I gave away names. So we're going to start again. Michael, what's the story about?
Yeah, so last week we were talking about spirituality, and in discussing spirituality, we took a segue. We looked at cults and what was it? Religious movements, Mark.
I suppose that's a nice word.
Yeah, that's their preferred term. And well, Stephen, still, we looked at that McGill article and we thought, still, are they making a story out of nothing?
Yeah.
But we still have local knowledge. And then we thought, well, I think this story is the biggest verification of strange goings on taking place near us here.
So someone reached out to us after the last podcast about Hyde Park. And so I'm going to try this again now without giving away any names. So in the early 1880s, there was a man, a local man, who was a blacksmith who had a forge out in Ballyellen. So one day the parish priest came out to the forge and asked where he lived and asked to speak with him. He came out to Ballyellen and asked where the forge was and asked to speak with him. We were Protestant, but regardless of the religion, the Catholic priest was a very well-respected man in the community, and the priest asked if he would do him a favour. As I said, the priest was very respected, and he said to him that he would do anything he could for him. So the priest told him that he needs his help, and he was going to carry out an exorcism in Hyde Park. So there was a lot of very strange goings-on reported around the locality. Alleged black masses and devil worship. Cows were passing blood instead of milk. Lots of animals having stillbirths, repeated sightings of strange entities reported around Hyde Park. So the priest was to perform an exorcism on the house, as the people living there were having difficulties with the alleged activities. So the priest, this man, and one other man went into the house. The priest led them into a room that had double doors. The priest explained to the two men that he was going to read the rite of exorcism, and that once he began he would not be stopping. He told the men that they were to stand in front of the doors and they were not to let them open, and under no circumstances were they to let whatever is outside the room in. So the priest began to read the rite of exorcism, and things began to go mad in the house, and the double doors were shaking as if someone was trying to push its way into the room to silence the priest. This man was a blacksmith, so he's a very strong man, and him and the other man had to do their living best to keep the doors closed. The priest was able to complete the passage and the house was quietened. This man was stunned by the power of the Catholic priest, so stunned by the power of the Catholic priest after seeing this firsthand. Shortly after this occurrence, he converted to Catholicism and became a practicing Catholic, and that's why I'm a Catholic today.
Such a story.
Crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. What do you make of all that?
Well, it's hard to believe from someone who hasn't had that kind of experience, isn't it? But then again, it's their own perspective, and that's what they believe happened and what they believe they saw. So who am I to criticize that,
This is very interesting, Mark, because when I was doing a little bit beforehand, that's the same thing that I came across. I was like, this is someone's personal experience. We can't verify it whatsoever. But I still believe that all that happened or whatever. In today's culture, it's all, we need science to back up, and there's no science here really.
No.
And that's the mystery of it, I suppose. But when you say about personal experience, there's some gas stories, right, about exorcisms. There's this one though, and I think he takes the biscuit. This is Edmund Angle. And he was a high flyer in the 1660s, Mark. So back then, we think that religion, and I think when you look at the history of religion, you realise that people were still people. They were pretending to be Protestant even though they were Catholic because they needed to be Protestant to keep their lands and their castles.
Right.
So there was all this going on. And Edmund had that dilemma in that he was Catholic but converted to Protestantism, but remained a Catholic, but was publicly Protestant, privately Catholic. But then again, you don't know what level of religious faith they had or whatever. Yeah. But anyway, that's a long background of this man from Longford in the 1660s. And he wrote a book in 1665, a 15-page narrative book, right? Mm. And it was a narrative account published about his experience of an exorcism.
Right.
So it's a crazy read. So first of all, he thinks that he's being he believed it was a God-granted illness, and he thought he was being tormented for abandoning Church of Ireland faith. But then when he called the Church of Ireland faith, he realised, or like called a Church of Ireland minister, he realised that wasn't getting rid of the devil. So he called a cousin who was a priest, and he did an exorcism. And the language of what's involved, he said the devil reappeared, he called for St. Patrick, he called for God, and he had the Virgin Mary he saw appear with a pair of scissors who clipped away the toys and the snares that Satan had plotted. His cousin then performed an exorcism, and when he was tied to the bed, whipped on the head and body, and he desiccated both his shoulders. Okay?
All right.
So the Virgin Mary saved him again, this time by, she sent a great number of bees, and they entered him and they cured him of his ailment. So where did the bees come from, Mark?
What the fuck? Bees.
Bees came in, yeah. More visions anyway. I took some screenshots from it there last night. Lo then, when Satan saw how likely it was that he should lose one of whom before he was cocksure, upon the circling over my head, he shews me a blue beam of about some 7 or 8 foot long, the edge of it as sharp as a scythe, and backward from it went whirling blue beams, and in the middle of it was his half circle, as if therein he had threatened to place my neck and to chop off my head. He was very good at his language, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah. So he had this exorcism. He became, I don't know what he became afterwards, Mark. He became a little bit, he was taken by the whole experience anyway. But he then led a failed rebellion against the restored monarchy of Charles I. And he led a cabal of people, a few people, into Longford Barracks. And he was the only one who was killed. So Edmund Angle lived quite the life, and really he has only really left us. He lived a comfortable life. He had a lot of land, a lot of castle. Then he had this big experience, and then he led a failed rebellion. And so there's very little known about him, but that's one story I found. What do you make of that? All that's not just a straightforward exorcism.
No, this sounds like the QAnon of the past.
What's that?
QAnon is like the conspiracy theories, the crazy people that believe in all this stuff, and he's starting a rebellion and stuff. So I don't know why that just kind of came into my head.
Yeah,
but like with exorcisms, how because like nowadays there's science behind everything, and it's like, oh, this is the dopaminergic circuit not working correctly, or he's low in serotonin, or whatever. We can describe things very scientifically, but how do you scientifically describe someone who's possessed or believes they're possessed?
I don't know the answer, but I did actually try, because I'm on a bit of a Jung phase at the moment, in that I've been reading a bit of Carl Jung, and he has this thing where like he believes that all illness is rooted in the psyche. So if we go back and look at what Edmund Angle first thought there, he believed it was a God-granted illness. So he believed it was an illness. Well then, if it was an illness, it was to do with the psyche. And then, so I just thought that there was a bit of, I could see something something common there, and like how Jung would describe that is that the man is possessed. Yeah. And there's a possession of something. So I don't really have the answer, but I just thought that was another way to look at the idea of exorcism, that maybe, like, obviously religious people believe it as an experience, but it can also be looked at through the psychological lens as a sort of an instance where a possession that someone becomes possessed by, and obviously he deals with neurosis, and that sort of it becomes more, well, in those instances, Mark, it cannot be quantified or anything, like, as you say, it can't be determined as scientific whatsoever, I suppose.
Yeah. Do you reckon then that could be like then just the priests playing to the psychosis of people?
It could playing.
Or do you know what I mean? Like, so it could be an insane person, but you're qualifying their beliefs that they're possessed by an external entity, when in actuality it could just be mental illness.
That's a possibility. But when you hear accounts from exorcists, so there are two well-known exorcists, Father Pat Collins is one, and then there was this lad from Belfast who only died a few years ago, Canon Billy Lendham. He was in South Belfast, and he was an exorcist for 30 years. Just an interesting perspective in that he was Church of Ireland, and even though maybe your man didn't need to convert, but anyway, that's a side story. But But there was something about it. Oh yeah, well, he's asked directly on that Father Pat, and he views it all totally in the spiritual lens, obviously. But that's his belief, and that's fine. Oh yeah, the only thing I wouldn't be able to get with that is when an exorcism takes place and there is a guttural voice that comes back.
Yes.
That it's very hard to say. Well, that the priest is steering that or determining that. If it is just a priest interacting with someone that is mentally ill.
So you don't believe the priest could put on that voice?
Oh no, but the priest isn't the one that's speaking. So these are all, you'd hear many accounts of exorcism where Father Pat got advice from a Church of Ireland exorcist, and this is his technique. So for an hour he has an interview just with the person who may have presented through a trauma, through some sort of trauma or through some source anyway of being put down over the years, and so and some source of oppression. So it just talks for an hour, bit of a casual interview, and then at the end the priest will say, "Do you mind if I just say a prayer over you?" At the end, and sometimes just out of them just being polite, they'll say, "Okay then," and then while he's saying the prayer, as he starts saying the prayer, the person who's interviewing with the priest could then start mimicking the priest in this really deep guttural voice that wasn't their normal speaking voice, as if this is the spirit being cleared almost.
Right. And this was like a common occurrence across them.
It's not the first time I've heard of something like that.
Yeah.
Where like a change of voice happens.
Right. And that would be the exorcism, or would he come back?
Yeah, see, this is interesting as well. Like, you could have the priest said it can happen. He might need to do it once, or it might have to be for a few weeks. That there could be layers of repression, is how he described it. Well, I'm sure people. That's generally. It's not the first time I've heard of that kind of voice that can be got rid of and expelled through an exorcism.
I've heard of an exorcism happening locally a few years ago. Someone was, they believed, possessed, and I believe it was either the parish priest or the parish priest contacted someone who came down, performed an exorcism on it. I know no more details other than that, but it's obviously common enough, and it's, well, not common enough, but like it can happen, and it still kind of happens because this was during my lifetime.
Yeah. He's been crying out for years that the church needs to take him more seriously, in that like there needs to be someone in each diocese, but there isn't. He's written a few books, and what I find a bit eerie about it is sometimes he says like he says like things like that he went to Auschwitz and he felt like a sense of evil. And again, this is a personal experience. We can't, like, everything he's dealing with, and the reason why he's an exorcist, how can you say for truth that, oh yeah, I understand, or not? But like, it's totally beyond the realm of confirmation, and
it's the same as psychic
inquiry. Yes.
Same idea there. We can't disprove or prove it.
Yes.
But the stuff the psychic said to us when she was on the podcast was correct.
Yeah.
For the most part. Anyway, the other stuff we can't prove. So again, how do you know? How do you not know?
Yeah.
If you don't have the ability to do it, how can you say it's not real?
Yeah.
But then there's no way of proving that it is real.
That reminds me actually of this other fella in history that we have, Father James Finity. He seems to be a bit of a character now. He was a renowned faith healer, and he used a bishop's relics. And one of the bishop whose relics they were was a powerful political organizer. Again, a glimpse into the past, Mark, where like religion was more associated with, handshakes and politics and, political scheming and trying to overthrow monarchies and stuff. Like, very, very interesting. Anyway, 1662 was a big year. Father Finity got a pass to go nationwide, and he went on tour. He attracted huge crowds, Mark. There was even a crush of people when he stopped in Clonsilla near Dublin, and people almost died, but they didn't die. Churches disagreed with him, and the public was divided. So a man was charged to investigate him. And anyway, they did a bit of investigation, but to be honest, he could never really prove that he was a faith healer, so...
Right, and why is a faith healer now? Like, what's the difference there?
Well, what's the difference there? Sorry, he also said... Well, there was another fellow around this time that, in a similar way, he believed in the power of touch. So he would just touch people, and he believed that it would cure them.
Right.
So this is the same type of thing. He would use the relic to bless over someone or the like. Does something come up there when you search for it?
No, I wasn't searching that. No, I was just searching the definition of an exorcism.
Oh yeah, good shout.
So an exorcism is it comes from the Greek word meaning binding by oath. It is the religious or spiritual practice of evicting demons, jinns, or other spiritual entities from a person or an area that is believed to be possessed. What are the words of exorcism? Bewitchery, bewitchment, conjure, delivery, devilry, diablerie, enchantment, enscrollment. So, one word there, The Conjuring. Have you seen those films?
No.
So you haven't seen them, so you don't know about Ed and Lorraine Warren.
No.
So The Conjuring, you know about Ed and Lorraine Warren. The Conjuring films, and what were the other ones called? Annabelle.
Yeah, Annabelle, and there's The Nun.
The Nun, was it?
Yeah, the rest of them are really good. The Conjuring movies themselves, like the first couple ones, are really good. But like, Annabelle's decent as well.
Annabelle's good, yeah.
But The Nun was just shite.
So Ed and Lorraine Warren were real people. They were real exorcists, and they made films about their stories.
Okay.
And in a common theme across all the films is they show the room that they had in their house of the items that were believed to be possessed. And this is a real room. Ed and Warren. I'll try see if I can find a photo of the real room. Real room. Oh shit, there is. So, like, these were real people, and their stories are real. So they had an actual Annabelle doll, and Annabelle was believed to be possessed by an evil entity.
So this room has a lot of weird stuff in it, Mark. What is this stuff that was part of the occult, or like what?
No, they're all items from individual cases of possessions.
Oh.
And the items are believed to be possessed. So like the Annabelle doll is locked in a glass cage so that it can't get out.
Okay.
Because what was happening with the Annabelle doll was that the owners were throwing it in the bin, and the rubbish bin or the rubbish company was taking it away, and the doll would appear back in their house. I've heard a story here as well of a house in Castletown that someone lived in, and they believed their house was haunted. So they threw out, like, the furniture kept moving itself. So they threw out a lot of the furniture, and they put it out on the front lawn to throw it away the next day. And they woke up that following morning, all the stuff was back in the house.
Oh my gosh. Jeez, that's crazy. And then the story of the anchor, of course, with the teacups on each...
The teacups, yeah. So that's a story from Niall Hempinstall, used to be the head barman in the anchor. Shout out Niall Hemp, who was supposed to be on the Patreon today. But yeah, he was cleaning up one night or something. He put everything away, and in the back there's a stairs, and there was a cup and a saucer on every step. It was just him in the pub, because after locking up. It's supposed to be haunted by someone called Ma something.
Right.
Yeah, she's supposed to be the ghost that lives there. But apparently, like, this is all the bar staff, you ask them, they believe it's haunted by her.
I'd say that ghost is just Carl Greg and fuck one Niall.
Has to be, yeah. I would not be surprised. So we can go in a bit to Ed and Lorraine Warren if you like.
Go for
very
it, absolutely, yeah.
Edward Warren and Lorraine Warren were American paranormal investigators and authors associated with prominent cases of alleged hauntings. Edward was a self-taught and self-professed demonologist, author and lecturer. Lorraine professed to be clairvoyant and a light trance medium who worked closely with her husband. So let's try to find... So Annabelle. These are notable investigations. So Annabelle. According to the Warrens, in the year 1968, two roommates claimed their Raggedy Ann doll was possessed by the spirit of a young girl named Annabelle Higgins. The Warrens took the doll, telling the roommates it was being manipulated by an inhuman presence. They put it on display at the family's occult museum. The legend of the doll inspired several films in the Conjuring universe and is a motif in many others. Another one is Perron family. So in 1971, the Warrens claimed that the Harrisville, Rhode Island home of the Perron family was haunted by a witch who lived there in the early 19th century. According to the Warrens, Bathsheba Sherman That's a scary name. Cursed the land so that whoever lived there would somehow die a terrible death. The story is subject to the 2013 film The Conjuring. Lorraine Warren was a consultant to the production and appeared in a cameo role in the film. A reporter for USA Today covered the film's supposed factual grounding. I don't think I've seen that one.
The first one?
Yeah. I don't think I have.
Really?
No. But like the Annabelle one is fucking very creepy. Like,
Yeah.
and if this woman is like on the set in these films and is part of the production team, like she's gonna be like make sure it's kind of grounded in fact. Like,
Yeah. That's mad. I never knew that the family were so connected to the movie. It does, as you say, give credibility to it almost. Like, yeah.
So I want to go a bit more into this Annabelle doll because I've lost a lot of sleep over it. So there's a Wikipedia page for this Annabelle doll.
Yeah.
So Annabelle is allegedly a haunted Raggedy Ann doll, died in the now closed Occult Museum. It's housed in the now closed Occult Museum of Paranormal Investigators, Ed and Lorraine Warren. Annabelle was moved there after supposed hauntings in the 70s. So here's the background on it. According to the Warrens, a student nurse was given the doll in 1970. They said that the doll behaved strangely and that a psychic medium told the student that the doll was inhabited by the spirit of a deceased girl named Annabelle. The student and the roommate tried to accept and nurture the spirit-possessed doll, but the doll reportedly exhibited malicious and frightening behaviour. It was at this point that the Warrens say they were first contacted, moving the doll to their museum after pronouncing it demonically possessed. The doll remained in a glass box at the Warrens Occult Museum in Monroe, Connecticut until the museum's closing. Texas State University Assistant Professor of Religious Studies and Joseph Laycock says most skeptics have dismissed the Warrens Museum as full of off-the-shelf Halloween junk, dolls and toys, books you could buy at any bookstore. Laycock calls the Annabelle Legend an interesting case study in the relationship between pop culture and paranormal folklore. This speculates that the demonic doll trope popularized in the films such as Child's Play, Dolly Dearest, and The Conjuring likely emerged from early legends surrounding Robert the Doll, as well as from a Twilight Zone episode released 5 years prior to the Warren story, entitled Living Doll. So,
Right.
in which the character of the mother is named Annabelle. Laycock suggests that the idea of a demonically possessed dolls allows modern demonologists to find supernatural evil in most banal and domestic of places. Commenting on the publicity for the Warrens Occult Museum coinciding with the film release of The Conjuring, writer Sharon Hill says that many of the myths and legends surrounding the Warrens have seemingly been of their own doing, and that many people have difficulty separating the Warrens from their Hollywood portrayal. Hill criticised sensational press coverage of the Warrens Museum and its Annabelle doll. She said, like real-life Ed Warren, real-life Annabelle is actually far less impressive.
Ooh.
Of the supernatural claims made about Annabelle by Ed Warren, Hill says, we have nothing but Ed's word for this, and also the history and origins of the objects in the museum. The doll was described in Geraldine Brittle's 1980 biography of the Warrens, The Demonologist. So there you go.
So, and you've lost sleep over this stuff?
Well, over the films, yeah. But that was kind of reassuring.
Right. But it's the way it's portrayed, the power of it, the independence of it.
Yeah, it's just, I think it's just scary films, to be honest.
Right.
Like, it's the way it's portrayed in the film, and like, I'm after being turned into a cynic now. 5 minutes ago, I was scared of it. But
Yeah.
like, yeah, you can sort of, like we were saying last week about like the 48 Laws of Power book, you can spin your own tail on anything, can't you? Like,
Yeah.
maybe we are being influenced a lot by just stories.
Maybe, yeah. Yeah. Speaking of which, stories and how they grow legs or whatever. There's this fella called Malachi Martin, and he's a good name, all right.
Yeah.
He's from Kerry, and he became a high-flying priest and he was in the Vatican, but then he left the Vatican and he didn't fully leave the priesthood, but left the priesthood a bit, and he wrote loads of books, and he was an exorcist as well. But he confirmed two theories that I was surprised by. 2 popes in the 20th century were murdered, he said.
Right.
There was a pope in the 1960s that, and these are 2 like Googleable conspiracy theories, in that there was a pope in the 60s before John Paul, and he was about to apparently sign a document that was outing archbishops for using the Vatican Bank to use money to support the mafia. So apparently he was killed, and something would tally with it in that, like, why did he? It was a bit odd how he died only like 2 months into his tenure as Pope.
Yeah.
And then there was another one in that Mussolini is meant to have killed a Pope in the 1930s.
Jesus.
Yeah.
I wouldn't put it past him.
No.
Fuck.
So,
it's a bit like Epstein.
Yeah, it's a bit mad, isn't it? Yeah.
And Ghislaine Maxwell or whatever her name is, she went down.
Yeah, has she been sentenced yet?
I think so, hasn't she? Yeah, she definitely
haven't
convicted.
No, definitely convicted, yeah.
Yeah, I seen a good meme of like a picture of her and Epstein is like a good sign of a good relationship is when you finish each other's sentences.
Oh, gee. Yeah, Tim Dillon has a joke there where he said, you know, they were in love. How can you dispute their love? Oh, it's tragic. But sorry, on Maxwell, like, I don't think it's over there. I think more is going to come. As in, she's going to squeal, or I don't know. It's just people are too big to fall there.
A few local TDs are going to be found out. Who was on the island?
Who was on the island?
I know the secrets. And I'm going to blow that can of worms wide open.
But you'll only do it on our Patreon. New episodes every Friday.
Yeah. This week we'll have Rory Heffernan.
Yeah, that should be good.
A listener and a footballer, Wexford footballer at the moment.
I'm sure he's many opinions.
I'm sure he's been up all night writing about his thoughts.
Yeah. Speaking of writing, Mark, I think this is, I'm kind of more, I suppose I'm very interested in, like, say, the impact of the printing press when we look back at, like, say that I'm always interested in, like, religion around the 1600s, because, right, there was this one religion that we had for 300 years and we're doing fine, we're just doing our own thing in Ireland, nothing going on, we're not really caring what's going on in Rome, they're too far away anyway. We just do our own thing, we start our own traditions, we're having a right time. That's what I always got. Then this new religion comes along, you start writing things and you try to read them, and now these people are different, and okay, do I move over to them? Oh, is there better crack there? Oh, they're giving me soup. Oh, right, do I go with them or no?
Wait, I'm sorry, you've lost me.
But, like, basically, like, the coming of Protestantism or Church of Ireland into Ireland brought with it, like, the printing press, in that, like, this is at the same, like, Martin Luther King, can you hear me? Martin Luther, fucking hell. Martin Luther and his 95 Theses, like, this is fairly common for history books and all, but, like, when you think about the power of the printing press, there was no other books being printed beforehand, and now pamphlets started being created, and, people could start arguments where they'd send 20-page letters to saying why the other person was wrong over things like religion, and to see how people interacted with this sort of change, that's really what I find fascinating.
And it evolved into Twitter.
Yeah.
Now we have Twitter. What's next?
Does it have to be faster?
Yeah, like, is it VR? Like, am I just going to put on a headset and just argue with people? And then it'll evolve into no heads. I can just sit there and, like, just start arguing with people in my own head, other people.
Yeah, you might get locked up for that.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think?
I think that's the natural evolution of it. Like, people back then couldn't have saw Twitter coming.
No.
When you first started getting leaflets en masse, like.
Yeah.
Now Twitter is here. We never saw that. And, like, what is next? VR seems to be becoming a real thing. You can buy gloves now so you can feel things in the metaverse.
Wow. Okay.
Have you seen, like, clips of the metaverse?
No.
Like, I've seen people like Gymshark, I think. Lad was having business meetings and it looked like the Gymshark office. And
wow.
The staff looked like themselves, and there was a computer and there was like a screen, and they were pulling stuff up on the screen and talking about it in the metaverse.
Okay. So does it make a Zoom call feel realer?
Yes.
Wow.
Way realer. And, like, your man was, like, showing it, and, like, he was turning his head and he could, like, look, and, like, your man was, like, smiling, showing facial expressions. It was exactly like real life, a meeting, but it was kind of in, like, cartoon form. And it was this exact same thing. They were pulling stuff up on a laptop onto the screen in a boardroom.
Okay.
And that's the way things are heading.
Yeah. Well, Mark, it sounds like the metaverse could actually work there, because Sorry, Rory Heffernan's here now.
We have an audience now.
We have an audience, yes. Rory Heffernan is about to join us for the Patreon. A fine advertisement to stay with us to be with us on Fridays and log on patreon.com/Paper Tuesdays. But yes, Love Gory, I had a meeting with them and they insisted on an in-person meeting. I didn't want to do it at first, but then I thought, no, I'll just go with it. And I have to say that the difference between a Zoom meeting and an in-person meeting was pretty realistic. You could see that like the discussion and the analysis would not have been the same over Zoom. But then the Metaverse could replace that.
The Metaverse could replace that. This is the reason that happened was because we cut out again. It's our second technical fault today.
Ah, yeah.
But where were we going with that?
I don't know. We started with Exorcism, and now we're talking about the Metaverse. And now where was the Metaverse brought into? How Metaverse has arrived on photo, like when we go back 500 years ago and people were writing letters to each other saying how one was such an idiot and all.
Yeah.
And even 100 years ago, remember you sent me that yoke on Instagram, the bad review that a penis got from France and they called him an arsehole. Like,
yeah. Can I read that?
Yeah,
that was good. But I want to go a bit further into the Metaverse now.
Oh, right, okay.
So what was this called? Notes. I actually found this page because Tim Ferriss shared something from it. I sent this to you as well, Rory, actually, the pianist. So this was a letter. French pianist Eric Satie calmly responds to a bad review. He sent 3 of these obscene letters to a critic in question and was jailed for 8 days as a result.
No way.
One of the letters he sent. To Monsieur Fuckface Pow, famous pumpkin and composer for nitwits. Lousy asshole, this is from where I shit on you with all my force.
8 days he got for that.
In jail. Now you just get 3 days off Twitter.
And yeah.
So doesn't Joe Rogan have like a joke where he says that eventually the way time is going, we're just going to be sexless, genitalless robots or aliens in space, and we're just going to be able to pick lives to live, and we're not going to have any struggle, not anything like that. We're going to find ways out of any of the constraints of human existence. And isn't the Metaverse like kind of the next step into that?
Whoa, okay.
You can be anything in the Metaverse, really. Like, you don't have to live your life.
Yeah. Right. But Joe doesn't want to do that.
No, I don't.
Young Joseph. So what does he mean? Like, is Joe going to start? Is Joe going to? What's Joe?
I don't think he's going to fight it. Like,
he's not going to fight it.
He's just trying to predict that that's the way that society is heading.
Yeah. Right.
Because we're constantly like, people are looking for ways to avoid discomfort and save time and make things easier and more accessible. We're just constantly solving problems. And the more problems we solve, the closer we get to this enlightenment state.
Okay. Yeah, but it seems very like someone that's just throwing stones at a glass house or something. Like, it doesn't seem like he's not saying we shouldn't do that. He's just saying, oh, that's going to happen or whatever. I don't know. I'm not. Something annoys me about that now. That's what I'm going to say.
You don't think you're just against Joe Rogan after the vaccine stuff, I think.
Well, I do like him as such, and like he is a pillar of free speech in a time where like you wouldn't think that you need a man in his 50s in a studio to be a pillar of free speech, but he probably is. The whole Neil Young debacle. So no, there isn't even. But I don't get how he's saying, oh yeah, the world is going awful and we're just going to pursue comfort. Well, do something about it, Joe. Do something about it.
I don't think he says it's an awful thing, though. I don't think he's
Does he not?
I don't think he has any emotion attached to it. I think he's just predicting that this is the way things are going.
Okay, all right.
That like kind of since time began, we've been looking for ways to make our lives easier.
Okay.
And eventually, not anytime soon, but we will be these globs of just like no discomfort.
Yeah. That's pretty scary, isn't it?
Isn't it? But I like the Metaverse, right, is here now.
Right.
So that's obviously going to improve with time.
Yeah.
And it's going to become more accessible and more realistic.
Yeah.
And as time goes by, is that not where people are going to choose to live? Instead of being here in your shit body, overweight, and like no one wants to ride you. So like, you're going to the Metaverse and you can be fucking Ryan Gosling. And now you have things in your hands that you can feel the Metaverse. So you can literally feel yourself being this person. Who's going to choose to be us?
Will it become alt to like not live in the metaverse.
Yeah, you're the only one here. Everyone else
Who's going to drink
metaverse-
the coffee?
it's
Can
just
you
gonna-
drink coffee in the metaverse?
Probably, yeah. You can probably, yeah. There's going to be ways to stimulate the circuits in your brain to feel things properly in the metaverse and feel emotion in the metaverse.
Are you going to go to the metaverse?
No way.
No
No
way.
way. I'm going to be here by myself, and everyone is going to be in these helmets. And
Yeah.
I'm just going to go around and do whatever the fuck I want.
Yeah, okay.
Pickpocketing.
And are you worried about the future of personal training in the metaverse?
Yeah.
Career change?
Yeah.
Go into farming or something?
Well, if everyone's in the metaverse, I'm not going to need to buy anything. Everything will be free here.
Okay, right. Yeah.
Would you enter the metaverse?
Now that you've pitched it to me like that.
How do you get in?
How do you
Where is the metaverse? Is that a clock?
Is it the back door into that casino near the Fowler?
Yeah,
Yes,
that's the
Treble
place.
Sevens. Yeah,
It's the
Super
metaverse
Sevens.
in there.
That's it. I remember Gro Cullen and I went in there once, and Gro isn't a good man for gambling, or like he was giving the man money basically. 20 on red.
I can't believe you were in Lucky Sevens.
Once, yes.
Did you win
yes. No, don't think so. Gro has a very funny experience actually of being in Lucky Sevens. It was during the pandemic or something, but when the pubs were allowed to open, and this drunk man fell down the street. They were just going out for a nice night, and he fell down the street, and they dragged him into Lucky Sevens. They called the guards. The guards didn't want to know him. The guards were like, "What's his name? Does he know his date of birth? Is he ill?" Like, all this. So anyway, just an example of what happens in Lucky Sevens sometimes.
Yeah.
Sorry, Metaverse. Do I want to go there? No, the way you've pitched it to me there, it makes me angry, to be honest.
Does it?
Yeah.
Me a little bit too.
Well,
But
more
sure.
that, like, we have so much in this world to be grateful for, and I'm going to be grateful in this world rather than any about Metaverse.
But sure, isn't that how people felt about the cars and stuff originally? It's like, well, I have my
Yeah.
horse. Why do I need a car? That's just fucking stupid.
Yeah.
Same with computers. Same with the internet.
Yeah.
Netflix. Phones. Smartphones. I don't need one of
Yeah.
them. Now you need one to survive, really.
To survive, yeah. Isn't the pace of change alarming?
Are we going to need the metaverse to survive?
To survive?
Eventually. We didn't need a smartphone originally to survive.
Oh, right.
There's going to be
Yeah,
things
yeah,
in the metaverse that are crucial to you functioning properly in society.
yeah. Like your COVID sort app.
Yeah.
Um,
They're going to find ways to make it that way.
Yeah. This is the first time in this podcast where I've made a point and I'm like, I just don't know.
Yeah.
But what was...
How much is the metaverse? I'm going to look.
Well, you can buy land there anyway. And
You can buy land.
yeah. And people are buying land. Snoop Dogg, I think, is an artist that has bought land there. But Joe Rogan hasn't bought land there yet.
Yeah, there's real estate agents and everything. I've ever seen someone on
Fuck off.
TikTok. There's a lad probably like around our age, and he's just sitting at home. He's a real estate agent in the metaverse, like making thousands.
Yeah.
How
Will
much?
you be doing
Yeah.
Metaverse?
I would create
property viewings.
I would create Frank Pierce avatar in the metaverse to sell all the houses.
So, how much does land cost in the metaverse? The cheapest plots of the metaverse land are selling for roughly 11,000.
Right.
Fortune said the smallest
steal.
plots of land in a popular platforms, Decentraland and the Sandbox, are 1-by-1 parcels. Virtual land has become a hot commodity as some parcels sell for millions of dollars. Will we live in the metaverse? By 2030, a large proportion of people will be in the metaverse in some way, predicts Melanie Subin, a director of the Future Today Institute in New York City.
Safe prediction.
Some people
Some people,
will
yeah.
use it only to fulfill work or educational obligations, she said. Others will live the majority of their waking hours jacked in.
That's mad.
Fuck.
But we're talking about transformation, I suppose, and like even I went to the Walsh Cup match last week, and there was the man at the gate, and he using his phone to scan tickets. And if you had told me when I was growing up, or 12 or 13, when Facebook was only arriving, and you know adults didn't really need smartphones, that eventually they would scan it, I would have told you to eat your words, or I wouldn't have believed that would be the case. Like,
Yeah.
That's a positive change, or adopting it, but I suppose we're just going to continue to gobble up this technology.
Yeah. What kind of worries me the most about it is like our children. They're going to spend the majority of their lives in the metaverse, possibly. Not in
Right.
real life.
Yeah.
So 2030, like, that's my child on the way is going to be 15.
Yeah. But see, I think this is the part of the thing that is kind of annoying me, that like we still have a bit of control here. We still have a bit of...
Sorry. 8.
Sorry?
Yeah, I'm not sure going for like the middle of 2030 or something there.
Well,
2030 is in 8 years.
8 years.
Yeah, not 15.
Okay. That went over my head altogether. Yeah. But like you still have power as a father. Maybe not to ban the metaverse, but to say to your son, look, lad, our daughter, or whatever gender that sorry.
They choose to be.
Anyway, you still have the right to tell that individual, or not the right, but you will still tell that individual, look, there's better things than that headset.
Yeah, but what they're saying, like work and educational obligations. Like, are you going to do your junior cert in the metaverse? You have to sit down in the hall.
Well, in fairness, the junior cert has lost all its value in the real world, so maybe it'd be better in the
metaverse. You like unlock it. It's like a cheat code you can get for a junior cert. The metaverse.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Sure. Well, sure. I suppose we have to go there now.
This episode is just going to be called Exorcisms and Junior Cert in the Metaverse.
How serious did you take? Junior cert, didn't you just not do anything?
Absolutely not. No.
Absolutely not.
Same with leaving cert.
Same with the leaving cert.
Yeah. I didn't do homework since 3rd year, and I didn't do much in 3rd year.
Right. Yeah.
But sure, look at me now.
Look at you now. Flying high.
Flying high.
Getting up at 7 o'clock or 5 o'clock each one. Or 7 o'clock classes. But putting in the work, so he is.
Putting in the work is right.
Yeah. Every hour God gives. Yeah. I don't know where to say. Exorcism are personal experience. The metaverse is a personal experience. We will have personal experiences in the future. Namaste.
Namaste. See you in the metaverse.